think I shared early on, like my first reaction, I was embarrassed and thinking, oh my gosh, now everybody knows. Now everybody knows. They see me with all my flaws. I feel like I'm standing in front of a crowd wearing just my underpants and everybody sees it all. It just was very like,
exposing.
It was very weird.
Hey, welcome to the Art of Espousing. We are so glad you joined us. Thank you for taking time to listen to the show.
Yeah, we know your time is a precious commodity, so we value that you would use some of it on us. We have a pretty big event coming up in a couple of weeks that we want to let you know about.
I know. I'm so excited, James. October 1st, 8:30 to 2:30 in Palm Beach Gardens, Florida. We have this event called Ignite.
That's right. We have our good friends and our senior pastors, Todd and Julie Mullins, and our friends Jimmy and Irene Rollins that will be speaking, and we'll be speaking in one of the general sessions as well.
That's right. So there's 3 general sessions, and then there's 3 different breakouts. You can choose 2 of the breakouts. It's going to be an equipping, enriching time. If you're in the area, we want you to join us. So tickets are on sale. So we have a link in the show notes if you want to check that out.
If you're going, it'd be great if you'd just come up and say hey to us. We'd love to meet you there.
Okay, so we're so excited about today's content. We spent some time with our lifelong friends, Dave and Bethany Kush, all around in the Enneagram and how it has impacted their marriage and things they've learned from that and grown from that.
Yeah, there's some really great stuff in the interview. Like you said, Lisa, we've known Dave and Bethany for like 20 years. Our kids have grown up together. We both walked through some life transitions and challenging times together and have maintained a close friendship through it all.
It is a miracle.
That's true. Besides being my cycling compadre, Dave is the executive director of HR and leadership development at Christ Fellowship Church, where he also serves on the senior management team. And Bethany has just recently transitioned to the groups ministry department and serves with you and I and everything married people at Christ Fellowship.
Like us, the Kushes have 3 kids. Although we have a straggler who's 17, they have 3 adult kids.
Right.
And they have grandbabies.
I know you're jealous.
I know, 4 grandbabies. We are truly thankful that they agreed to sit down and process their relationship and their relationship dynamic in light of the Enneagram.
So if you're unfamiliar with the Enneagram, it's a tool of empathy and learning that reveals core motivations. And we find this tool incredibly helpful for marriages because it provides opportunity to identify patterns in the way a spouse responds and behaves. And that awareness positions a couple to shift interactions. So it increases strength and reduces ways that they may inadvertently weaken their relationship.
It's going to be a fantastic show because you're going to see how Dave and Bethany have leveraged themselves and their personalities to strengthen their marriage. And so if you're not familiar with the Enneagram or you just want to update yourself, we encourage you to go back and listen to season 1, episode 8, where I give an overview of the components of the Enneagram. But before we jump into the conversation, we want you to hear about a powerful experience that we believe can take your marriage from good to great.
If you're looking for that one thing that could be the game changer for your relationship, then the Marriage Reboot Retreat is just for you.
If you want a greater connection with your spouse, if you are tired of feeling stuck in the same old, if you desire to feel the thrill of fun and discovery again, like you did when you first met, we can help. We support couples to reconnect, recharge, and re-engage to pursue their life purpose together.
The Marriage Reboot Retreat by Married for a Purpose is a private, intensive experience for you and your spouse, working exclusively with Lisa and I for 2 consecutive full days. At the end of the 2 days, you will walk away with a unified purpose for your marriage and a holistic vision for your marriage and family, supported with a real action plan.
If you would like to find out more information about the Marriage Reboot Retreat, you can set up a discovery call with James and I, and we will tell you more about it. The link is in the show notes, or you can direct message us on Instagram at Art of Espousing, and we will send you a link to schedule a discovery call.
Dave and Bethany, thank you so much for being on the podcast. It's so good to see you guys.
Oh, it's great to be with you guys. This is awesome.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, well, we've had the joy of being friends for such a long time. Our kids have grown up together. We've done ministry together for a long time. So just to actually introduce you all to the podcast, I think it's going to be so special for everybody listening today.
Sounds good. I'm ready to jump in. This is going to be very interesting.
You guys know us pretty darn good. So
good thing we're talking about y'all and y'all aren't talking about us.
That's
I love
true.
that.
That's true. We have little secrets of our own.
That's right.
Well, to get us started, why don't you just take some time to share a little bit about your marriage journey from the beginning to where you are today?
All right. right. So we both grew up in Christian homes, and neither one of us had divorce on either side of our families. That doesn't mean that there was no dysfunction, but there was no divorce. So we had, strong family background. We met at a small Christian college in Ohio. I think I knew right away that I wanted to marry you.
Oh, I totally knew right away.
You were so cute.
Well, we were engaged. We were engaged within 6 months of meeting each other, and then married 8 months after that.
8 months later, it was pretty quick.
Yeah, but the interesting thing was we had both graduated from college, and the wedding was like really soon after graduation. So, but neither of us had jobs, and so that was a little.
We didn't go into it knowing we weren't going to have jobs. We did have a plan. It just some things happened that prevented.
Neither of us had jobs, and we made it work
Yeah.
until we both had jobs.
Right.
And but the cool thing was through that whole season, we were always supporting each other, encouraging each other with our words, and it was teamwork.
Mm-hmm.
For us. It was always teamwork.
Mm-hmm.
And I also just really feel like we've always been continual learners as a couple. From the very start, we've always been trying to figure out how we can improve our marriage. How, we've always gone to like finance seminars and conferences, learning about money and how to handle that better.
You like those. You like the finance ones.
The parenting ones were the ones that you loved.
Yeah.
And so we've always been trying to learn from others, people who are ahead of us, and try to build that into our marriage. And then we started having kids 2 years into our marriage, and you decided to stay home. We both decided that you were going to stay home.
We knew we were going to do that from the beginning. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then Dave actually worked in the corporate world for about 15 years in different areas, finance, construction, development, that kind of thing. And then the last 15 years, he's been in full-time ministry. And then I came in, working after the kids grew up and went their own ways. I stepped on to the ministry team about 9 years ago. And now we're kind of empty nesters.
Sort of, yeah, because now they're coming back. But but we are empty nesters.
Yeah.
Well, we met you guys when Dave was still in corporate world.
Right.
So almost 20 years ago. So we've known you in that world and ministry world, which is kind of a cool thing to know you guys. And so everything that you've said is actually true about you. We've seen you as lifelong learners, growing individually and growing together. So all good.
Okay. So both of you guys, you've known me since I've been in my 30s.
Right.
So with knowing that, I just want to say to you right now, I'm sorry.
We should say, same.
Yeah, exactly. I'm so glad we're not the same people we were back in our 30s, right?
That's right. That's awesome. Okay, so we're coming into all things about Enneagram, and actually your numbers, I'm not going to give it all away, are a common couple combination.
That's right.
And so all of you out there listening, you're going to learn so much from this, not only because you are great married people, but because you have great learnings about each other's. So Bethany, we're going to start with you. What is your core Enneagram type that you identify with? How'd you come to discover it? And maybe even one sentence for your reaction to hearing your core type.
Okay. All right. So my core Enneagram type is a 9, and I have a 1 wing. So my tri-type is actually a 9 to 5.
Okay.
And I really started working on this a few years ago. Lisa, you got interested in it, which got me interested in it. So I just started doing all kinds of digging and research. And before Dave was actually very interested in it, but listening to podcasts, reading books, you and I talking about it on walks and stuff, and just really digging deep. And it was just fascinating to me. Did a few of those online free assessments, and it was pretty clear that I was a 9.
Yeah.
I think anybody who knows me is not surprised when they hear that about me. I think I shared early on, my first reaction, I was embarrassed and thinking, oh my gosh, now everybody knows. Now everybody knows. They see me with all my flaws. I feel like I'm standing in front of a crowd wearing just my underpants, and everybody sees it all. It just was very yes, it was very weird.
Yeah. Well, I want to just mention that the 9 is the sweetheart of the Enneagram. And so they're just so tenderhearted and sweet. And so they do kind of stand out because they are so sweet. And that is true of you. You are a very sweet spirit. If you get ugly, that's a whole nother level. We'll have to talk about 9s getting ugly another time.
Go there. It's
go there.
Happened.
That's right.
Yeah. And the thing I love about you going through this, you have wrestled through it so much, but I've seen your strengths come out so much. You've actually strengthened yourself through all of this as well. And then for myself, I'm a Enneagram 3 with a wing 4, recently taking the full assessment, Lisa helping me with that. The tri-type came out as a 3, a 7, and an 8. So I remember you had discovered this and were researching it and diving into it first, Beth. And
I had him nailed as a 3.
I was really confused. I wasn't sure, but I found myself listening to podcasts and listening to her and talking
because I was listening to him, so he got to listen.
We had just bought this house and it was a fixer-upper. I was in the middle of remodeling it in a period of like a month. We had to get it remodeled. And I was halfway through it and hearing all of these descriptions. And I said, crud, I must be a 3, because everything that was driving me almost to madness was the need to redo the house so it looked good for everybody else.
Wow.
I wanted it to be perfect for everybody else, not so much for myself. My fear of failure was driving me crazy too, just like figuring that obsessing that I might do something wrong.
Yeah.
Screw something up. It was haunting me actually the whole time.
I specifically remember too, he was really obsessed about the grass in the front yard, and he didn't really want people to come over until he could figure out how to make the grass look better.
Wow.
And I totally did not get it. I was like, the house looks fine. Nobody's going to care.
Yeah. All the 3s would.
And I just realized how obsessive I get over this stuff, because if I find out we're having people over and you might have a possibility of giving them a tour of our upstairs bedroom and closets where people could see I might spend an hour or 2 cleaning my closet before they get over here, just so they don't see me out of disorder. And so that kind of stuff haunts me, and it's really unhealthy. So
that's so funny, because 2s, 3s, and 4s all are image focused. So I'm a 2. I say the very same thing to James. We had people over last night, and I'm like, if you plan on doing a tour, I need to know, because if you're going to take them in our bedroom, things are going to be different. And Lord forbid, because you would think that I wouldn't care about the garage, but if he takes people in the garage to see his bike, I lose my mind.
Heart attack, yeah.
Yes, without cleaning the garage
is off limits right now. It's a disaster.
Well, the other thing that's interesting is, so you and I share the same tri-type, Dave, 3, 7, and 8. I'm high in 8, and then 7's my second highest, and then 3's would be the third highest in that tri-type. But the way mine demonstrates is so much different than yours, because I could care less about what my grass looks like, and my closet is what it is.
We do need to talk about your grass. Yeah.
Yes. Thank you, Dave. Well, the interesting thing is 3, 7, 8 is a mover shaker. The truth is, both of y'all get crap done,
right?
No matter what, because you're going to remove boulders, build things, do things. You're kind of people that actually we need in the world to actually do anything, because Bethany and I would be sitting around having coffee, enjoying company with one another.
That's right.
Cozy blanket and candle.
That's right. Okay, so I'm going to continue talking still individually. What have you learned about yourself through Enneagram? And maybe even some language that you came across that you didn't know about yourself prior to that. And then, Dave, you can answer that same question.
Well, conflict is a core fear of a 9. And I think I knew that, but I never really recognized it deeply, to the point of just so Dave, his nickname in college was the instigator.
My roommates call me that.
So he would just come in and he'd get a discussion going, and everybody would start arguing, and he'd just leave the room. And it would get me so anxious, so nervous. And I didn't really realize that it was because I was afraid of conflict. I didn't know why. But as I started really digging into this, I was like, oh my gosh, it makes sense now.
Yeah.
All these years later, anytime someone has a heated discussion, it causes me anxiety and I want to run away. So it just helped me learn, especially in marriage, how important it is to understand how to navigate conflict and have healthy conflict, that it's okay to disagree. It's not the end of the world. He's not going to leave me.
Right.
It's okay. I just have to have courage to have those conversations and know that if I can just lean in and take the discomfort for a little bit, once we get on the other side, we actually end up being closer.
Yeah.
So I think it was a really big learning for me because I really, really avoid conflict to a detriment for myself. So that was one really big thing for me. And then I think the other one is probably just the fact that I feel so deeply. I identify with everybody. Like if I'm counseling someone at church and they're going through something really hard, I feel it with them, and learning that I have to be really careful with that too, because I can take it with me.
Yeah.
I love my empathy. I think it's a superpower, but I have to use it responsibly.
Yeah. One of the things about you and about nines is they are actually secret workaholics. So just because you're kind and sweet and the sweetheart of the Enneagram and maybe appear to be passive, they actually are high worker bees and get a lot of things done, especially with your one wing, all the details.
That was another thing. I think when you asked earlier, like they have the different animals.
Yes.
That represent the different numbers. And I remember sloth was the one that was tied to a 9. And I was so offended by that. It upset me. And I think I might have even cried. I was so upset. I'm like, I'm not lazy. I'm not a lazy person. I work really hard. But when I realized that it's not that I'm lazy, it's that I actually don't do things for myself. It's neglect. Like I neglect my needs. I neglect talking about dinner, having an opinion, like, where do you want to go to eat? Oh, I don't care. Wherever you want to go, it's fine with me. When I actually do have an opinion, it's easier just to let someone else choose.
Bethany, you and I had the opportunity to work really close together for the last several years. And when we were both in our discovery of Enneagram, I remember a meeting that we were having, and I was challenging you to be more aggressive in meetings and more assertive in meetings. And later when we started understanding the Enneagram, basically I was trying to get you to be me, an 8. And when I started understanding that, I was actually really challenging you, I was coaching you, leading you to be somebody that deep inside, you're just not wired that way. And you've grown and you've stepped into that. But I think that's an interesting understanding too in marriage, because when you understand how somebody is wired or things that maybe are challenging, like conflict, and you're trying to get them to be something they're not, it's not helping. It can be demotivating.
And I think, Bethany, you found your voice. Like you've found your voice to speak for yourself, and that would be assertive for a 9, but it's certainly not going to look 8-ish.
Right.
Well, I was just going to say, even with you challenging me on that, though, I think because I had high trust in you, I didn't take it that way. I took it as like, okay, this is safe for me now to be able to it's a safe place for me to be able to speak up, and he's got my back. So that's the thing I love about 8s. 8s have your back.
Yeah.
Okay, Mr. Dave. Give it to us. What have you learned about yourself through Enneagram, and maybe some words or language that you weren't able to otherwise articulate?
Yeah, I think that I now understand how my wiring and how growing up both really had a hand in developing what my core driver, my motivations were, to get things done, the productivity, the efficiency, working so hard to prove my value and all of that. And then my core fear of failing. Like the fear of failure or even just being viewed as not knowing what I'm doing or incompetent. I think those fears haunt me all the time, like to an obsessive level. I think one of the huge ahas for me too, through just understanding my type and hearing other people talk about it. And I don't know that I really understood this fully until I started hearing people talk about 3s and being detached from their emotions or feelings. And I was like, holy cow. Yeah. That's why I haven't cried in like 15 years.
Wow.
So, I don't tear up over things. I don't feel my emotions, or just not aware of it. It's like they're useless to me. So I keep moving. And I think one of the other things that I've really kind of tried to understand about me and grow in this fact is how to be okay with who I am. And like being, not just trying to get value from doing. So I want to try to grow in my value in who I am instead of like what I'm achieving, what I'm doing all the time. Words that the Enneagram gave me, I think core motivation, being task oriented. I think that's language that I can always associate with. Here was the painful one. Chameleon. That analogy of the three being a chameleon, like being able to blend in with the groups that they're in. Yeah, that's completely me and completely embarrassing. And I think even that drives a three to be self-deceiving, or that whole concept of self-deception, just understanding or believing a narrative that maybe not even would be genuinely me. But I think the cool thing is I've got now a deeper understanding of my emotions, how to listen to my body. My body is actually the communicator of my emotions to me. And I'm actually like today
He's learning to like pick up on those things.
Yeah. My breath, my breathing, my heart, what's going on inside my gut. I'm actually listening to that now a lot more closely than I used to just completely ignore it. And I think understanding the other types, having empathy for what other people's fears are and what motivates them, having the empathy for that. And like, even just like, oh, I just touched on disloyalty for this person, for this type. And so that really gives me some great understanding. I think the biggest thing that I don't know how many years it will still take me to really conquer this, is being vulnerable. I cannot there's still things that have happened that where I feel like I've failed, or maybe just the appearance of failure,
and that
I still won't verbalize it. So today's not starting that either.
Yeah, you were very vulnerable right then.
It's really funny because Dave and I cycle together probably 3 or 4 times a week, and we're very close friends. And I'll come back from a ride, and this is like, "What'd you guys talk about?" I was like, nothing,
Like, how did you not talk about anything? You were at stoplights. You
because
said something.
As an 8, I'm not very vulnerable either, and so we're like perfect for like not talking about anything together. So,
yeah.
But you're both a little competitive too. So
that's true. Yeah.
That's true. We push each other.
A couple of things I just want to highlight about what you said, Dave, which I think is amazing, is the idea of emotions, of being detached from them. 3s are known to be detached from emotions because they get in the way of productivity. So if they slow down productivity, they're going to push them aside and keep moving on. The interesting thing that when you're mentioning that, each triad, so you have the head, which is 5, 6, and 7, and then you have the body, which is 8, 9, and 1, and then you have the heart, 2, 3, and 4. The center of each of those, which would be 6, 9, and 3, all of them are more detached from the triad they're in. So 6s are more detached from the head. 9s are more detached from the body, which means they don't have as much action as the 8 and 1. And 3s are most detached from their emotions. So they rest in the center of the triad they're in, but they also struggle with the triad they're in. So I just think that's interesting. And it makes you not feel bad that you're a 3, because you really are in the feeling triad. So anyway, I love that piece.
That's good.
Yeah. And the chameleon piece, and they also call him the politician of the Enneagram. Yes, it can be negative, but it actually can be very positive, because people need to be motivated and look beyond the negative in life.
Yeah, that's good.
Because as a chameleon of the Enneagram, you can actually step into a situation and bring life and direction because of the positivity and the blending and feeling. You probably feel the room. You're just not going to emote a lot of feelings. So just to put a positive spin on your 3-ness there.
Good.
So.
Well, let's jump into a little bit of the dynamic of the Enneagram in your relationship. As you think about your marriage over the last 33 years, and now your understanding of your types a little bit more, do you see any places that there's been challenges, maybe in the area of communication, that now Enneagram has helped shed light on?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yes.
So, and I think some of it actually goes back to the love languages too.
Okay.
For me, I know the love language for me has always been acts of service.
Yeah.
And so I show my love through to you and communicate to you through doing things for you.
Which was such a frustration for me. The early years, I was like, why are you in the kitchen cleaning? I just want you to sit with me. Just come sit and talk with me. But he was trying to love on me, and I just didn't appreciate it.
So I think Enneagram has really kind of allowed us to take those love languages and go even deeper into understanding those and being able to communicate better to each other through that. So it's not just, okay, I need to focus on this love language. No, it's like, okay, these are things I actually have to say. things I have to act in. The interesting thing is we like doing the same things. Mm-hmm. We just like doing them at different levels. So you'll go deeper into the details. You'll go deeper into the facts. And
it's kind of my 5 popping out there.
The researching thing. And I'm just cool. Let's go do it. And so I'm going to be a lot more high level and you're going to be a lot more in the details.
Yeah. And I think it's real interesting that that back to the love language, his love language is acts of service, and he's a doer. He, as a 3, like he gets stuff done. And my love language is quality time, which really feels a lot like a 9, right? Like just come sit on the couch with me.
Put on your lounge clothes.
In my lounge clothes. In my cozy lounge clothes with my collection of blankets and candles.
Right.
And let's talk. And so it was like really interesting when we did find out we were a 3 and a 9, that all these years later, it's like all of the signs have always been there. And now it all just comes together and makes so much sense. And so I have more grace with him and he has more grace with me, but it all has really impacted our communication because being a 3, he's go, go, go. He doesn't have time to slow down and talk about it. He just wants to get it done. Mm-hmm. So he tends to not communicate details and not tell me things, which I interpreted as, oh, he's just independent. But then there's me, and I am going to maybe avoid the conversation just because, well, it'll just all work itself out. If I say something, he could get a little irritated with me. So then you've got us not talking at all.
Right.
And then unmet expectations and boom, there you go in a conflict.
Yeah.
And just in case anybody listening doesn't understand the concept of lounge clothes, there's a step down process from daily where like you got work clothes through the day. And then as soon as you hit house, you go right to lounge clothes, which is the intermediary in between step to PJs.
Pajamas.
So lounge clothes dominates the evening until it's time for bed.
So what would be super romantic is that Dave comes home and gets in his own set of lounge clothes to say that we're going to hang out on the couch, right?
Yeah. Yes, I have. He's actually come to my side. He's actually seen the value in that. Yeah.
That is awesome. So what about the area of conflict resolution? How has it strengthened your relationship, especially in the area of conflict resolution or communicating better?
Well, when we didn't communicate, we had conflict anyway. So I don't know what I was so afraid of. Like,
right.
I might as well just, talk about it because I'm either going to be upset now or later. Learning that conflict is okay.
Yeah.
And we're getting better at it. We haven't figured it all out, but we have language now to talk about it. We had a situation today that was a little tense because we didn't communicate well this morning. And our whole day got off.
Yeah. The ride in the car was we were pretty quiet in the car. And I've realized that one of the phrases that I've really held on to is being fully present in the here and now. And because distraction is so prominent with me, I can get distracted. So eye contact goes down. I'm looking the other way. I'm thinking about 3 other things while she's talking to me. So being fully present in the here and now has been a huge growth tool for me, and reminding myself that I need to do that.
And me learning to say what I need.
Yeah.
That's good.
It's because sometimes I don't even know what I need. So I have to he has to be patient with me as I try to figure out how to articulate it. So that's been a thing for me.
So for me now, just recently realizing that I'm not in touch with my emotions, I'm not only having to work harder at listening to you, like understanding you and listening to you, but actually listening to myself, like my body, like what's going on in my gut, what's going on with my heart, my breathing. So I've actually been more in tune with that now, and being able to
proud of you.
Express that has been so painful. So explaining what's going on inside of me while we're having conflict actually helps you.
Yes.
And it actually gives you empathy and sympathy for.
Of course it does. Yes.
It's not all about
it's a little bit of a turn on, if I'm honest.
So what happened today then? How did this play out?
Well, we were heading out. We didn't really communicate on like the time. I'm very conscientious. I'm usually not the late one. I'm not saying that he is, but I'm not usually the late one.
So I parked the car, and I know we're minutes away from being in front of people, and I'm not walking in front of people carrying this tension, and I had to just stop.
But it had been all morning. There was just our gears were off. We just couldn't get back in sync. And then when we finally got to our destination, he just stopped the car and he goes, something's going on with my heart right now. He's like, this is not good. This is something, and we got to talk about this. I can't go in feeling like this. Yeah. And it was so cool to me that he recognized that. So I think we made out for a minute in the car.
Well, he's got incentive to be honest about his feelings now.
I know.
That's right.
I love it. So, Dave, where do you feel it in your body most often when something, or where did you feel it today? What part? Was it breathing, chest, arms, back? What was it?
It was kind of like the top part of my gut and a little bit of my breathing. Okay. It got a little tough, and it's weird. It's almost like a cramp. So hard to describe. But because I would typically just jump out of the car, say, "Oh, I got to catch my breath. I'm gonna breathe a little harder right now, just to blow past it, and then just keep going." Right now, I'm like, no, okay, now I recognize that. I've got something's going on.
That's good. Bethany, where's yours? You typically land? Where do you feel?
Oh, it's in my chest, just breathing. I can't catch my breath, like heart racing, that kind of a thing.
Gotcha. Yeah. James, where is it in yours?
I think it's in my head. Like I feel a lot of pressure. Like if I start getting pressure in my head, that's something's off, or I'm feeling it.
Interesting. Mine's always in my throat. So I feel... if it's real intense, I may think I'm going to throw up, but it's usually a pressure, a shakiness in my throat. But all of these things, I think it can change, but mine is typically always my throat, are indicators. We all share a mutual friend, Lance Witt, I heard it from him years ago. He talked about your body is a major prophet. It's going to let you know what you need if you listen. And so to me, when my throat starts getting like that, or like your chest is going, what's going on? What conversation do I need to have, or what do I need to pull away from? I will usually tell James, just as you told Bethany, I'll say, I'm feeling nervous, I'm feeling uncomfortable, and I can't pinpoint it, but I want to feel better between us. And so I love that. I love that you guys have that language together.
And it's really weird because James, you're so competitive and with like cycling and we're always like in tune with our bodies when it comes to that, like action oriented. But when it comes to relational, conversational, that's where the awareness for me is like, oh man, I have some work to do in that area. So.
Yeah, that is an interesting thought, because when you asked that question, Lisa, I really had to think about it, because I don't know that I'm super in tune with it. But like if there's conflict or something, that's where it would hit me. But I actually had to stop and think about that, and I think that's a good thing for all of us to think about, because it is true that your body's going to reveal something's going on. If
I ignore that, it'll move to my back or my jaw. So if I'm at my back, if I'm in between my shoulder blades or my jaw's locking up, I've just been vulnerable. Anyone who knows if I have back problems or jaw problems, they're going to know I have not been listening to myself and pacing myself. So
yeah, that's good. Well, this has been awesome, and we love you guys, and we love doing life with you, and just really appreciate you taking the time to be on the podcast with us.
Thanks for having us. This was a lot of fun.
Yeah, and just again, because you guys have known me for so long, I'm sorry. but I think
you're such good friends. You put up with so much with us.
We're really working on this. And I think our marriage is stronger because you're stronger as a person. I've seen you work through a lot of these challenges, and like you get bold and like, that was awesome.
That's right.
Yeah.
So we are really working on each other and encouraging each other.
Y'all do a great job. And you know what? You've seen all of our ugliness too. So
that's right.
So much more. So we're in it for the long haul.
Man, there's so much good information in that interview. We hope you found it helpful. And we want to thank Dave and Bethany again for being on the show. And we want to thank you for listening today. We would love to hear your thoughts and answering your questions about what was shared today. And you can email us at hello@artofespousing.com just to say hi, or you can hit us up on Facebook at Art of Spousing. You can also direct message us using Instagram at Art of Spousing.
Please let your friends know by sending them a link to the show. You can also help other people find the podcast by rating and reviewing us, and we'd appreciate that. We invite you to join us back next week. We're going to have a conversation. James, I'm so excited about this. You and I are going to have a conversation about strengthening our marriage by building on common ground, and who doesn't want to do that?
Yeah, it's going to be really good.
It's going to be great.
So have a great week, and we will see you next time on the Art of Spousing podcast. Until then, bye-bye.